Good morning, everyone. My name is Don Daniel, founder of P.I.L.L Method International. And today we're going to be talking about something very, very special. Hold on a second. Oh, okay. I got to turn this computer on. All right, great. All right. I had a second computer on. All right. So, folks, we're going to be talking about mortgages and about what it is we think we're doing when we're buying a house. Are we really buying a house? I'm going to challenge that today. I think we're actually doing something else besides buying a house. The house is already bought. The bank has bought your house, and you're purchasing equity. We're going to break this down to what's really going on behind the scenes, because your focus is on buying the house. Your focus is on, I have a house, we need a place to stay, we're living in the house, but in reality, something else completely is going on. And I want to talk about that today. So I'm going to get ready to put some things on the screen. All right. So we want to share this screen here. And all right, entire screen. All right. So what we're going to get ready to put on the screen now is, let me see here. There it is. And let's move this over here. All right. This is what you want to see. You're not buying a house. Okay. So let's add this to the screen. Okay. You're not buying a house. You're not buying a house. Most people believe a mortgage. Now, we're going to go through this, and I'm going to stop periodically and do some explaining. Okay. Most people believe a mortgage is the price they pay for a place to live. Okay. That framing hides the real transaction. There's a real transaction going on behind this. All right. And I need as many people to talk to me about this as possible. We're going to put in the chat. Okay. We're going to put in the chat a link. Let me go ahead and get that link ready. And if you want to come, if you're on Facebook or on YouTube watching this, you can get this link, all right, and come on live with us and talk about it. So we're going to put this here. There it is, all right? And I want you to communicate with me and tell me where you are watching this from, all right? So most people believe a mortgage is the key to for a place to live. But what's really going on, you are acquiring wealth through equity. That's what's really going on. You are purchasing equity from the bank. And the interest determines how efficient that wealth acquisition becomes. So you're buying equity. Now, equity is the difference between how much you owe and how much the house is worth. So as soon as you close on that loan and you start making your first payments, you're purchasing your equity, you're growing your wealth. And we're going to talk about how that wealth grows and what it means to you and what it means to the bank. Okay. Now, what a mortgage actually is. A mortgage is not primarily about shelter. It is a long-term mechanism for converting cash flow into equity. So how does the mortgage convert cash flow or the amount of money you make? So you're working hard. You're getting paid weekly or bi-weekly or semi-monthly or monthly. You're getting paid. And now you're taking part of that income and you're making payments to that mortgage. Now you're converting your money that you're making into equity. But the way the thing is structured, listen to this now. This is why millions of intelligent, responsible people make payments for 10 or 15 years faithfully on time and still build very little real wealth or real equity. You think you're building equity during that time. And next week's show, we're going to get into more about that and talking about net equity. But as you're making your payments, you believe that these payments are equal. You believe that these payments are doing more work for you than they really are. I'm going to show you what's really going on here. It is not because they failed, but because amortization delays equity while prioritizing interest. So it's not about your house. It's not about the mortgage. It's not even about your equity at first, because that's where you're focused. It's about the prioritizing interest so the bank and its investors can make more money. That's what this thing is really about, ladies and gentlemen. So let me show you what we're talking about when we're talking about here. We're going to switch over and look at, let me get this out of the way. All right. And bring up, let's see here. We need to bring up, there we go. All right, here it is. Here's a $400,000 mortgage at 7%. All right. And we're looking at when you start making payments on this thing, okay? You start making payments. I don't want the IQ test. I don't want that. Get that off my screen. Okay. All right. So we want to close this ad up. All right. And put in 400,000 at 7% because interest rates are still above there. We're going to do another show in about 2 weeks where we're talking about how the president is trying to manipulate interest rates by buying up a bunch of mortgage-backed securities, right? Directing Freddie and Fannie to buy mortgage-backed securities that's supposed to lower interest rates. But in 2 weeks, we're going to talk about how you don't want that. You really don't want lower interest rates as far as affordability is concerned. What you want is to start figuring out how you can strategize using interest rates where they are to save even more money and pay off the mortgages even cheaper and faster. Okay, we'll talk about that. Right? So now $400,000 at 7%. And here is how this breaks down. You are purchasing your equity every single month. And here is you're paying your money, and your money is then transformed into equity. Now the payment here is $2,661.21. That's the payment. You pay that to the bank for your mortgage. You're paying that. And you're taking the money out of your bank account, making the payment, and then it transforms into equity. And when it transforms into equity, this is what happens. Out of that $2,661, only $327.88 goes to equity. Folks, that is what's really going on. That's what you're buying. You're taking your $2,661 every single month, making that payment, but only about $327 is actually creating wealth out of all of that money. Well, wealth for you. The rest of the money creates wealth for someone else. And that's what's happening in the beginning. So what's really happening? You buy a house. You're happy about it. You got the keys. You've reached a milestone in your life. And then you start taking your income to transfer it into wealth. And for the middle class, this is a major source of wealth building for the middle class is the equity they get in their homes. That's what we're taught. That's what we're told. That's what we believe. But look how slowly that equity builds up. All right. So we're going to bring a calculator over here. And the payment again is 2661.21. So we're going to put that in the calculator. 2661.21, and we're going to multiply that by 12. So in the first year on this mortgage, in an effort to build wealth, you see, you thought it was about buying a house. In actuality, you are attempting to build wealth when you're paying this mortgage. So by doing this, in 1 year, your income has gone towards buying this house or building wealth or building equity. $31,934.52. That $31,000 or $32,000, you are paying that to convert it into wealth. And when it's converted into wealth, look what happens. Only $4,063.23 of all of that money has created wealth for you. One more time. 31,000 in the first year towards this house, 31,934 or almost $32,000 went towards this house to build wealth. And what happened with it? It was discounted by over 80% and only $4,063.23 went into building up your equity. That is what's going on. You think it's about buying a house. The house is a mechanism. Let me get back to our sheet here, okay? It is a long-term mechanism for converting cash flow into equity. And for most borrowers, it is one of the least efficient wealth creation processes that they will ever participate in. In fact, it is the most inefficient. Using a mortgage the way the banks designed it is the most inefficient way to grow equity on the planet, because too much of your money is discounted every time you make a payment. So what's going on here? It says we have here, this is why millions of intelligent, responsible people can make payments for 10 or 15 years faithfully on time and still build very little wealth, not because they failed, but because amortization delays equity acquisition while prioritizing interest. Nothing is broken here, folks. This is not a flaw. This is not a mistake. Okay? This is how amortization actually works. It is designed to work that way. Interest is front loaded. So the mortgage prioritizes making money for the bankers. It does not prioritize home ownership. You see, when we move into that house and start making payments, we're not homeowners, we're home buyers. We're not homeowners, we're home buyers. And that's what we need to understand here. That's what's really going on. So let me move this from the screen for a couple of seconds. All right. So while you are taking all of your money and growing your wealth, putting it into the house, paying down the mortgage, building equity, the bank is front loading this whole thing, and it takes 20 to 21 years just to pay off half a 30-year mortgage. 20 to 21 years just to pay off half. So you would think that after paying for 15 years, you would think you're paying off half the mortgage. Uh-uh. It takes 3/4 of the time to pay off half the mortgage, and you pay off the second half of that mortgage in the last 9 years of this mortgage. Between year 21 and year 30, you pay off the second half of the mortgage. I need you to pull out your amortization schedule as soon as you can and start looking at it. I also need you to subscribe to this channel, comment in the comment section, and start telling other people about what's really going on with trying to build equity in your house, trying to build equity, trying to build wealth, how the middle class builds wealth today, and what's really going on with front loading of the interest. Okay, so let's go ahead and let me take that one off, and let's go back into this and read a little further. Okay, interest is front loaded and not evenly distributed. I mean, it's weighted heavily in the beginning, where 88% of your payment is interest in the beginning. Only 12% of your payment builds equity. That is crazy. That's what's really going on here. So the interest is front loaded, not evenly distributed. Early payments are dominated by interest. Equity, the actual wealth, is postponed. I mean, it's set on the back burner. While we get in the habit of making monthly mortgage payments just like we're paying rent. We've paid rent when we were in the apartment. When we move into a house, we're continuing to pay rent on the money. We're renting time. You see, if you understand how to read an amortization schedule, if you go into this thing intentionally, and here's what I need you to start thinking about. Before you sign the mortgage, start thinking intentionally. Do I want to be in this house for 30 years? Do I want to pay a mortgage for 30 years? Or do I want to pay a mortgage for 7 to 9 years? If you start thinking intentionally and saying, if I pay for 30 years on this mortgage, let's bring that back, okay? If I paid for 30 years on this mortgage, they want $558,000 in interest on a $400,000 loan. That's crazy. Okay? So, in other words, once I get it all paid off, and I subtract the amount of interest that I have paid to get this equity, I really have very little money left once the math is done. So think about this, ladies and gentlemen. How can we put ourselves in a position to pay less interest? You need to start thinking like that before you sign the mortgage. And be intentional about, how is it that I can pay this thing off in the way that best benefits me and my family, so I can take the income that I'm making, and more of my income goes to building equity instead of building wealth for the bank. Does that make more sense to you guys? Put something in the chat. Put something in the comment section. If you're watching me on YouTube or Facebook, tell me where you're from. Tell me where where you live. Tell me, just say hi. Okay. Now watch this. Watch this. We're gonna go back. We're gonna go back. All right, and um, um, pull this up. All right. The bank is paid first. Wealth accumulation comes later. Now, I don't know anybody who engages in any type of anything that has to do with finances that wants to put their benefit on the back burner. I want my benefit to come last so the bank can eat first. No, I want my family to eat first. I want my family to eat now. I want to cut the bank's interest by 75 to 80%. I want to pay on my own terms. Start thinking like that. That's kind of where this is going. The ownership illusion. So while people believe they are building ownership, okay, the wealth they are acquiring is minimal relative to the time and money invested. So when you're thinking about making those payments every single month, the wealth you're creating for yourself, tiny. Creating for the bank, huge. The exchange of payments for equity happens slowly, expensively, and inefficiently, often without borrowers realizing it. All this means is that you're taking your payment and converting it into wealth for you. What you want to do is break out of the bank system and say, how can I create wealth for me and my family through the mortgage system? Because once you know how it operates, it is possible with your current income to pay off all of your debt in an average of 7 to 9 years if you know how the thing really works. But if we keep listening to the banks, if we keep listening to the mortgage folks, if we keep listening to the wrong people, we will treat a 30-year mortgage as the prescription we should follow. The 30-year mortgage gives us options so that we can pay it off in a way that benefits us, so that you can still go on vacation, you can still have fun, you can still live a great lifestyle, because you don't need more money to pay off the mortgage sooner and faster and cheaper. What you need is to pay less interest. The very thing that's keeping you in debt forever is the interest cost, not the interest rate. Okay? So, what people track and what they don't. People track their payments, they track interest rates, they track loan terms. That's what they track. Almost no one tracks the only relationship that defines wealth creation inside a mortgage. And here it is. How much interest is being paid to acquire $1 of equity? Do you realize that for most people, you need to pay $2 or $3 interest to acquire $1 worth of equity? That's the way it's set up. That's the way we're educated. That's the way we're oriented. But we don't have to follow that plan. We don't. It is not necessary. I see you, Quentin. All right. Says in Portland. All right. Let's see. What are you saying here? Okay. Portland, Oregon. Interest rates are in the low sixes. Some people are getting high fives. All right. Now that is good to know. All right. Would you be interested in knowing, Quentin, that an interest in the sevens is actually easier to pay off in the fives? If you want to know, put that in the chat that you want to know, and we'll go over that as part of this presentation. Okay. First time here, you came up in my algorithm. Okay, great. All right. It says first time here. Great. So here's what we're going to do, Quentin. Just for you, because you mentioned that, this is going to be good information. Now, everything that the bank offers us is a way to make them more money. If they accept it, if they promote it, it actually makes them more money. Every time you lower the interest rate, you decrease your leverage to kill interest payments. Let me show you what I mean. I'm going to take this off the screen, okay? And we're going to bring up an amortization schedule. We're going to do one in the sevens, okay? We're going to duplicate that same 400,000, and we're going to do it at 5. Because see, here's what some people are doing. They will maybe even buy down the rate. They could do that. Or if it's a new build, a lot of builders are offering an incentive. Let us buy down your rate. Instead of being in the sevens, we'll get you into the 5s. Okay. Have you seen that? Okay. Thank you for subscribing. All right. Thank you for subscribing. So watch this. Here's what's happening. And I think you know about the tip. All right. If we follow the bank's idea on a 7% mortgage, they want us to pay 139.5%. They want us to pay $558,000 in interest on a $400,000 loan. Here's how the payment breaks down. Okay. $327.88 to principal, $2,333 in interest. So as I'm trying to convert my money into equity following the bank's plan, very little is going to equity this way. All right. But if let's say I make my first payment in January, I've already made my first payment. My February principal payment is $329.79. Hey, Quentin, let me put if you have time, if you're on a computer or whatever, I'm going to put my link in the chat. Okay. I'll put my link in the chat. And if you have time, you can come on the program with me and we can talk about it. You can come on live. You don't have to be on video. You can be on audio, or you can be on video and audio. So let's copy that. Okay. And because you're watching us on YouTube, that is my StreamYard link. Okay. And you can use that to come in live if you want to. All right. Now let's get back to where we were. And if you come in, I'll back up just a little bit. All right. So here's what's happening. All right. You're in the car heading to the office. Okay. Listen. So watch this. All right. So if I make my January payment, my February principal payment is $329.79. You know, I don't have to wait till February to give the bank $329.79. So if I make my regular mortgage payment and I can prepay this $329.79, that will go straight to principal if I direct it there. Okay. If I direct it there, look at this. I'm paid down to line 2 on my amortization schedule. My next payment for February is actually now on line 3 because the calculation is based on this number on line 2, not on the number on line 1. So I owe less. So they have to calculate my interest payment on line 2, which gives me my payment on line 3. All right. So here's what we're talking about. What just happened with this? If I prepay this, I eliminate line 2 from my amortization schedule for just $329.79. And this interest cost of $2,331.42, I never have to pay. It's gone. I've just eliminated $2,300 worth of interest I never have to pay. Now, if you want more information like this, you can go crawling across the screen is my digital business card, ceodon.com. Right? You can go there and find our phone number and give us a call. My office number is 256-886-1867. That's 256-886-1867. And we can go in depth. Okay. Because it looks like you're a realtor. So now What would happen if I made my payment in January and I took a look at the amortization schedule? And what if I just did this? Now, this is not how my program works. I'm just using these numbers because it's easy. It's right here on the screen. We could prepay this 329, this 331.71 if we had the money, and 333.65, a little bit over $1,000. Guess what happens with that? I eliminate this interest payment, so now I have 46, 69, $7,000 in interest has been eliminated from my mortgage just by, all right, just by prepaying the next 3 principal payments. That's how easy it is to get rid of this interest. So now I need you to take a look at this. If I add up all the principal payments and all the principal payments here and all the interest payments in these 2 columns, the principal pay down is $4,063.23. The interest that's paid is $27,871.29. That's what most people do. All right. But if I know I can prepay, let's say I have this money available, I can prepay $4,063.23. Randy says he'd like to know more, please. Okay, Randy, we're talking about it. Let's put you on the screen there. All right. If I know that I could pay this over a year's time, that's all the principal payments paid for 1 year. What if I had a little money in the bank? Do I have to pay the $4,063 in 12 monthly installments? The answer is no. If I had it, I could pay it all at once. So if I did do that, what would happen? Okay, let's put a calculator on the screen. I have $400,000. If I had this $4,063.23, so let me subtract $4,063.23 equals 395, 936, 77. That's exactly the same number here that's on line 12 of my amortization schedule. So if I paid this up front on line 1, I'd be paid down to here in just 1 month. I could be paid down there the first month of my mortgage. I could be paid down to here if I give them this much money up front. Now, look what happens. I skip all the interest payments between line 2 and line 12. Instead of $27,000, almost $28,000 in interest paid to get to the same point, I only pay 1 month's worth of interest, $2,333.33. Okay? That is what's going on. That is what's happening. All right. So now let's take a look at what happens at the 5% loan. I want you to keep this in mind. Control the principal payment and you control the loan. Interest payments I skip don't matter. Okay. Do they re-amortize the loan when you're prepaying? Oh, no, they don't re-amortize it. They just, you just destroy the amortization schedule and they just recreate a new one. Okay. So what happens is if you were to prepay this, okay, payment number 2 is actually line 13 on the schedule. Okay. So you're kind of, you are reducing the amortization schedule. You're going from payment number 1 to payment number 13 if you do that. Okay. So if you pay anything else other than what they're talking about, even if you pay a dime extra, it destroys the old amortization schedule and a new one must be created. Okay. So that's what's going on behind the scenes. But the thing is, Randy, when you make a payment, an extra payment to principal, no one ever tells us how much interest we're saving. And we didn't even know to ask. That's very important here. We're doing this to create equity for a much lower cost. If I prepay this $4,000, I don't have to pay $27,000 in interest to get this equity. I can get this equity if I prepay it. I can get that for only $2,333.33, which is better. So that's what's really going on here. So you're taking 360 payments by when you pay when the bank is not expecting it, you make it impossible for them to charge you interest. That's what's happening. And every time you do that, you're cutting out either pieces of a payment or numbers of full payments. You're eliminating them. Our idea is to get away from 360 monthly payments. And by paying your mortgage in a strategic way, when you want to, you can turn it into 78 or 80 monthly payments instead. Giving the bank money when they're not expecting it, you make it impossible for them to charge you interest. Keep that in mind. Now, look, I need you to take a look at the difference between the 7% loan and the 5% loan. Look at the principal payments here. You see that? Look at the principal payments. Now, I'm going to the 5% interest loan. We get rid of this advertising here. This is not my stuff. Okay, here's the 5% loan. Okay, the payment is less. It's $2147.29. Okay, and out of that payment, here's the breakdown. The very first principal payment is $480.62. The next principal payment is $482.63. So if I was to get rid of line 2 on this, I have to now come up with $482 to eliminate one line of interest, as opposed to $329. Every time you lower the interest rate, you decrease your leverage. Leverage means I want to put a little bit of effort into something to get rid of something big. I want to put a little bit of energy into something to get a larger result. Okay, so every time you lower the interest rate, you decrease your leverage by making your payment to principal larger. And if you're prepaying the loan, you just made it harder. Now look at this. We're looking at 1 year's worth of principal gets rid of $4,000, gets rid of 1 year on this mortgage if you prepay it. Lower the interest rate to 5%, it takes $5,901.51. What would happen? Now, you will never see these rates again. We'll never see them again. But let's duplicate this. Okay. Let's change it to 3%. Okay. We got the same 400,000 at 3%. Let me show you what happens when that happens. Okay. I'm looking at my interest rate, and I think because a low interest rate means something to me, and my payment is now lower. Okay. My payment is now lower. Oh, but look at this. Look at my principal payment now. It takes $688.14 to get rid of one line of interest. It takes $8,000 prepaid to get rid of 1 year. Okay. At 3%, it takes twice as much money prepaid to eliminate 1 year on this mortgage. Look at that. Then at 3%, look at this. It takes $8,000 to eliminate 1 year of mortgage payments. That's what happens when you lower the interest rate. So it is possible that on your budget, it'll be easier to eliminate a mortgage or grow your equity faster and cheaper at the higher interest rates than the lower ones. It says, I will be relooking at my loan now. Okay. So listen, folks, you see it on the screen there. All right. You can go to ceodon.com and click on Get a Savings and Earnings Report. If you want to know how you can save a lot of interest, we'll give you a free report on that will tell you the month, day, and year you'll be debt free and how much interest you will save, not just on the mortgage, but all of your debt. Okay. Or you can go to pillmethod.com and click the same button. Click that button that says Get a Savings and Earnings Report so that you can know how CEO Don is crawling across the bottom of the screen. CEO Don, DON.com. Okay. That's my digital business card. Okay. CEODon.com. If you are watching in a vertical, then it's crawling across the top of the screen. Okay. CEODon.com. Or go to pillmethod.com and you can find the same button there. All right. So, folks, I need you to see how this whole thing is constructed, that even though we think we're better off at a lower interest rate, we think we're better off with a lower term, you never, ever get a 15-year mortgage. I mean, never, ever, 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 ever. You never, ever, ever get a 15-year mortgage because it will end up hurting you. Get a 30-year mortgage, and we'll show you how to pay it off in 7 to 9 years on average. Some people take a little bit more time. Some people take a little bit less, but that's the average. Okay. So go into this thing intentionally, ladies and gentlemen, with the idea that we're going to be out of debt in less than 30 years and come up with a strategy before time. All right. And most people never do that. They don't think there is a strategy to pay it off in 7 to 9 years. Our average client does that. Not just the mortgage, but all of their debt. That's their mortgage, their student loans, their credit cards, their car loans, everything. Okay. So this is what people track. When the math is finally measured, I need you to see this now. When the math is finally measured, when the relationship is finally measured, the illusion breaks. When you start measuring interest cost, when you start measuring what does it mean to get this interest rate versus that interest rate, when you start measuring how much interest you're paying and how much interest you can actually save, the illusion breaks, and then you can start thinking more like a strategist and not just a borrower. So do you want to go into this thing as a borrower of money, or do you want to go into it as a strategist so that I can use this loan to my benefit so I can pay the bank pennies on the dollar for the use of this? I get my mortgage for 75 or 80% off. I get the same equity. I get the same house. Okay. But I am paying 75 to 80% less on the interest cost. I don't need a low interest rate. I just need to pay less interest cost. There's a difference between interest rate and interest cost. You need to know that. Okay. So what feels like steady progress is often revealed to be one of the most inefficient paths to wealth accumulation in modern finance. That's what's happening here. It is all set up. You thought mortgages were set up to make it easier to buy a house. Mortgages were set up to be a huge wealth transfer to the banking system. Huge wealth transfer. And we can cut it out at this level. Don, why isn't anybody else teaching this? I go to the P.I.L.L method. You're the only one talking about it. And here's why. I have autism spectrum disorder. And when I look at an amortization schedule, I see the amortization schedule in pictures and patterns. And because I see it in pictures and patterns, it breaks down to me this way. And that way, and over the last 19 years, we have endeavored to get this out to the public, and I need your help to do it. Most people have never, ever heard of interest cancellation, and this is how it works. You do not have to pay a mortgage or credit card or car loan or your student loans in the way the banking system has prescribed. You can do it a lot cheaper with your current budget. Stop thinking that you need more money to throw at the loan. What you need is to understand the money that you have and when to give it to the bank when it makes it impossible for them to charge you all of that interest. That is what's going on. Oh my gosh. You're just gonna love this. Okay? I need everybody to know. Follow this channel, subscribe, tell other people about it, and have them subscribe and watch these videos. We've been doing these videos for years. People need to know. Watch this. Why this episode exists. Why are we even talking about this today? This episode, okay? Now, what I've done was there is a description of this episode, all right? And I've just taken the description and put it on the screen because a lot of people don't read the description. So I just took the description and put it here so that we can go over it. Okay? Why are we doing this publicly? Because it's not on the news. They're not talking about this on CNBC. You know what they're talking about on CNBC or any financial channel? They're talking about how high the interest rates are and how it's depressing the housing market. People are waiting for the interest rates to come down. I'm telling you, as sure as I'm sitting here, if you work with us, I will show you the numbers that prove that if you can afford the payment, you're better off at the higher interest rates than waiting for them to go down. If you want to save money, learn how the thing actually works and stop listening to the pundits. Stop listening to the Dave Ramsey. Stop listening to the Susie Ormans. Stop listening to so-called experts that do not show you the numbers as to why what they're saying actually works. We'll show you the numbers. Okay? So most financial professionals do not understand how amortization actually works. They've never been taught this. It's not taught at any level of financial education. That's why we don't know. So yet, by looking at this thing, it quietly shapes the financial outcomes of millions of households because we don't understand it. What are you saying here, Quentin? Quentin says, I have people in mind to send this to. Great, fantastic, Quentin, fantastic, because they need to see this, okay? They need to see it. And put this on the screen, all right? This is what he says, okay? He wants to send this to people. Fantastic. Thank you so much for helping us get the information out, okay? What this is and what it is not. What is this episode all about? And what it is and what it isn't. Okay? This is not about paying faster. Okay? It is not about sacrifice. You know, Dave Ramsey talks about sacrifice. And I mean severe. I mean live like a pauper, eating eating beans and rice. Okay, for years to try to get out of debt. Okay, what we're talking about is not lowering your living standards. What we're talking about is paying your bills on time, doing what you got to do, and then the money that's left over, how to effectively use that money to pay your debt when the banks aren't expecting it so that you pay less interest. It's about paying less interest. It's not about blindly throwing money at the debt, not knowing what your outcomes are. When you pay extra on the debt, you want to know how much interest you are saving. Why is that important? What if we could break this thing down, and we do? What if we could break this down, and this could be your scenario? For every dollar I'm putting on principal, I'm saving $6 in interest for every dollar. That would be a 600% return on your money. Oh my gosh, that is wonderful. But what if, not measuring, you put your dollar on principal in the wrong amount, in the wrong month, on the wrong day of the month, applying it to the wrong loan, and you're only saving $3 in interest for every dollar. You wouldn't want that. But here's what I need to tell you: without a way to measure, you don't know the difference. You're guessing if you don't have an algorithm, if you don't have math to show you the way. We have a program, a computer program, an AI that actually does all the math and says, this is, by doing this, you're going to save the most interest that's mathematically possible for you using your current budget, paying the bank in a way that disrupts their ability to suck you dry. I mean, to drain your bank accounts. Stop letting them do that. Don't let them siphon off your wealth to build their wealth. When do you want to start? When do you want to start building your family's wealth and stop building theirs? That's what this is about. Okay. So it's not about sacrifice. It's not about deprivation. It's about understanding how wealth is actually created inside a mortgage. You can use a mortgage to create fantastic wealth for your family, and even more wealth if you are a real estate investor that's done everything right and added this one metric: we're going to pay less interest for our loans and make even and grow our net worth exponentially because we're paying less interest on our loans, on our portfolio. Oh my gosh. Start thinking intentionally about, how can I pay less interest? I need everybody to say that with me. How can I pay less interest? How can I pay less interest using my current budget and without upsetting my lifestyle and without having to refinance? You can keep your loans just as they are. Okay? Another thing, and I need for you all to understand this. Some of you have COVID era mortgages. I mean, in the threes, and some are in the sub threes, some are in the fours. Some people have a interest rate of 2.9. Okay, and since 2020, okay, you have outgrown your house. You have opportunity to move to a better job. But because you have a 2.9 or a 3% mortgage or a 4% mortgage, you are reluctant to give it up because you think you're hurting yourself by moving to this new house. And now I got to pay 6.5 or in the high fives, or maybe even 7. Don't let that keep you from getting the house you want. In fact, we'll show you how giving up the 2.9, moving into the house you want, we're going to actually show you how to manipulate the entire system so you pay a lot less interest and pay off your mortgage even cheaper and faster by not paying all that interest. So don't let those low interest rates keep you in a house you don't want. Okay? Don't do it. All right? So here's the real purpose. Why are we here? You are not here to learn how to make payments. You are not here to learn how wealth is formed or lost inside the structure. And once you see it clearly, it cannot be. I'm sorry, I read that wrong. You are not here to learn how to make payments. You are here to learn how wealth is formed or lost inside the structure of your mortgage. Once you see it, you cannot unsee it. Okay? So that's what we're talking about today, ladies and gentlemen. That's it. You want to know how to engage your mortgage intentionally. If you don't have a mortgage and you're thinking about getting one, I need you to start thinking this way. How do I position myself to pay this thing off in 7 years and live well while I'm doing it? Okay. If I already have a mortgage, how do I take what I have now and take a look at how much interest I have left to pay and cut that by 75 or 80% so I can still be done in about 7 years? Start from where you are. Maybe, just maybe, you're in a position to say, you know what, I don't have a mortgage, but I do have student loans. Let's see how you can get rid of those student loans. My average client pays off all their student loans in 5 to 7 years instead of 7 to 9. The average is 5 to 7. Okay, we have a ton of doctors on our program that's paying off their student loans, and lawyers. I mean, the reason why I mentioned doctors and lawyers because because some have financed their whole educational career with student loans, and they're huge. But if you know how not to pay the interest, you can knock those things out faster than you ever thought possible. I'm here to tell you, ladies and gentlemen, we need to move away from the old financial education and get the new financial education, knowing how this works, knowing how to disrupt the bank's profit center, and know how to grow our own wealth inside a mortgage or other loans. I'm here to tell you that borrowing money, leveraging money, is the very best way on the planet to buy houses and cars. Never pay cash. Your cash should be invested. We can show you how you can borrow money at an effective interest rate of around 1% or less. If you can borrow money, I've got some clients that are actually, I've got a client that has $2 million worth of loans on commercial buildings. His effective interest rate on his 5 and 6% loans, 0.67% is his effective interest rate on those current loans. He didn't have to refinance to get it. We're showing him how to pay his money to the bank, which makes it impossible for the bank to charge him all that interest. And when we do the math, it comes out to 0.67%, less than 1%. So if you can borrow money that cheaply, should you ever pay cash? Absolutely not. If borrowing money was bad, all the banks would be out of business because they're the biggest borrowers in town. They borrow our money. They lend that money out to make big money. And they pay us pennies on the dollar for the use of our money. Why can't we do the same thing? Why can't we take a page out of their book, borrow money from the bank, get a big old benefit, my education, my house, my car, okay, my vacations, okay, and pay them pennies on the dollar for the use of that money, while my cash, okay, while my cash is being invested in my 401k, in the stock market, in annuities, whatever your flavor of investment is, your cash should be making money, not paying cash for houses and cars. Don't do it, because banks don't operate that way. I need you to start thinking like a bank. What do you say? All right, folks, I've been here. How long have I been here? Okay. I've been here about an hour. Okay. I've got clients to see, and I know you all have to go to work. All right. And let me tell you before I go, I do have coming up in February, we're going to be doing a 5-day challenge. We're going to be spending 5 days with you, between an hour and between 60 and 90 minutes a day, 5 whole days, going over point after point after point, the history of mortgages, the history of this whole thing, how you can upset their apple cart, how you can develop a strategy to pay off all of your debt in an average of 7 to 9 years, and learn all the math behind it. You are going to learn this thing from the bottom up. And I mean the nuts and the bolts. That's coming in February. We are going to start advertising it soon. A 5-day challenge, and it's going to be called the P.I.L.L Method's Ultimate Debt Elimination Challenge. What is it going to challenge? It's going to challenge your conventional thinking about debt and give you something completely new so that you can start benefiting from understanding how loans actually work, how you can pay tiny amounts of interest instead of the huge amounts they're looking for. You do not have to do it their way. You can do it a different way. And that's what we're going to be talking about coming up in February. Well, folks, I've had a good time today. All right. I want to say thank you for listening in. Let me put thank you in the chat. Okay. Thank you. There we go. That's for everybody. And we'll be back next week with a program called Net Equity. Net Equity. It's a new concept that we've come up with, and we're going to explain it to you, especially for real estate investors. Now, everybody can benefit from net equity, but I'm telling you, real estate investors can really benefit from it. You don't want to miss next week's show. Okay? Next Wednesday, we're going to be right here, and we're going to be doing pop-up lives from now on. I mean, basically, folks, before I go, I'm tired. I'm literally tired of people I talk to some people who push back against this information, and they're teaching people the standard way of doing this, and it's hurting them. And they listen to those people because they are talking about what's generally taught. And most people understand this as the truth. And they are believing it with absolutely no evidence. That's why I need your help. I'm tired, but I'm tired of that, but I'm enthusiastic about getting this information out. I need your help. Start telling people about it. I want to grow this. I want to grow our channel to over 10,000. I want to do it in just a few weeks. Let's get it to over 10,000 so that we can get it to 20,000 and 30,000. I need your help to do it. Okay. So let's do that. All right. We'll see you. We'll see you next week. And let me get everything ready here. All right. And okay. So thank you everybody for being here. I see we've got several people watching. Make sure you comment on the videos. Make sure you click that like button. Please smash the like button because that helps our algorithm. And also subscribe to our YouTube channel and follow us on Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, LinkedIn. All these videos are out there for you. And we have years of videos that you can benefit from. And the last thing I want to say is this: get your savings and earnings report. It's free. Get your savings and earnings report. Go to ceodon.com and click the link and click the button that says get a savings and earnings report, or go to pillmethod.com and click the link that says get a savings report. Here's what's going to happen. Once you fill that out, my staff will get that. They'll call you, confirm the numbers that you gave, because we guarantee these numbers. They got to confirm the numbers that you gave us and then tell you your results. And if you want, we'll send you the report. It's a 2-page report. Okay. I want to thank everybody for being here. Keep all of that in mind and see you next week. All right. I'm trying to play the outro here. It's not playing. Why is it not playing? All right. Well, I guess we won't. I guess we won't have any music today because it's supposed to play and it's not playing. All right. Well, anyway, we'll see you next week. All right. So let me put this on the screen instead, and we'll cut out. All right. You're not buying a house. You're purchasing equity, and you're paying through the nose to get it. See you next week.